Yo, what up? It's your boy Tesh. Welcome to Wine Talk with Tesh. I am super excited, you guys, for a multitude of reasons. But first and foremost, I gotta say, my boy Guisseppe is here. Guisseppe, thank you so much for making time again. Appreciate you, man. You've been awesome over the last few months doing these in-person tastings and doing these virtual tastings with us. And you have such a good, fresh take on the wines that you import that it just kind of like you make it really easy to like do business with you. You know what I mean? Plus,
Thank you.
everybody always loves the wine. So it's like, you know, when you're like, hey, let's taste. I'm like, fuck, okay.
We try our best.
You're doing just fine. I've got some news to share for those of you who are tuning in, but I wanted to I'll save kind of like that news for later. For those of you guys who already know that Jordan is in the background doing his thing, he's back there doing, you know, give him a like, give him a hey Jordan, all that fun stuff. Go follow him on social media. Jordan, what's your social media handle again? It's Jordan, everybody.
I was like, how do I talk? So on Instagram, it's Jordan Steffen _ STEFFEN. So
go follow him.
That's how you can find me, or just Jordan Steffen everywhere else. YouTube.
Go follow the man, the myth, the legend. He's awesome. Well, all right. So we're gonna jump into a couple of really, really cool wines. And when Guisseppe poured these for me, I was like, these are the ones. Like, I just needed to figure out when we're going to drink them. So I've already poured myself a glass of the Anancio. I know it's a T, but it's pronounced seal. Anancio. All right. So we're gonna start with that with the Roweno. And Guisseppe, tell us a little bit about Roweno as a producer before we jump into the actual grape that we're drinking.
Yeah, so this is a winery that literally is on the border of Veneto and Trentino. So these are two regions in the north part of Italy. Those of you that are familiar with the town of Verona, you know, where Romeo and Juliet take place, this winery is about 45 minutes north. You have to coast Lake Garda, and as you're driving towards the Alps, you will bump into them. It's a family-owned, family-run. It's three siblings. Roberta, Giuseppe, like me, and Cristina.
Hang on, time out real quick before you continue. You just said Giuseppe. Yeah. Have I been saying your name wrong this whole time?
You pronounce it correctly. Very often it's not spelled correctly, but it's the pronunciation is correct.
Okay, but it's Giuseppe.
Giuseppe, yeah.
Giuseppe.
Yeah.
Dang, man, I have been saying it wrong, man. You're very, very nice. Okay, my bad. All right.
No worries about it.
All right, so you got three, siblings who are running the estate.
So basically, the name Roweno, the RO in Roweno stands for Rolando, which was their father, and he was the founder of the winery. And they've been growing grapes for the longest time, and they also own a restaurant and a small hotel. And so for the longest time, they were making wine just for the restaurant. And then about 20 years ago, the three siblings decided, they graduated from the enological school, and they decided to actually label their wine and sell their wine. And there we go. And basically, they grow all the native and traditional grapes of this part of Italy. And this being basically Trentino, there is a huge influence from Germany and Austria. And this is why you find Riesling here, you find Müller-Thurgau, but there is also a number of local grapes, Marzemino, for example, Teroldego, and Enancio. And you're right, it's spelled Enancio, like with the Z at the end instead of the T. And that is the Latin pronunciation. And we are keeping the Latin pronunciation still today, and we are still calling it Enancio.
So what can you tell us about this grape? Like nobody has ever heard of it before, right? At least I mean, it's not well known here, right? So what is it like? Is do you know any kind of you're really good about knowing like the DNA like parentage and stuff. Can you tell us more about the varietal itself?
Yeah, it has been known for at least 2,000 years. Matter of fact, on the front label there is an excerpt from the Pliny the Elder book Naturalis Historia. This is 79 AD, so it's 2,000 years ago. And he already back then he mentioned this grape. As a matter of fact, the label says this is a wild grapevine that we shall call Enancio. But that grape has never traveled outside of this small little valley in Trentino, never been planted elsewhere. And until a few years ago, because the scientists didn't have any DNA analysis to work with, only they could only categorize the grapes by looking at them, and for some reason it was lumped into the Lambrusco category because the plant itself looks like a Lambrusco plant. But then they did a research and then they analyzed the DNA, and there is no relationship whatsoever, not only with Lambrusco, but with anything else. So it's a grape that has been growing in this little valley of Trentino for at least 2,000 years and never been planted elsewhere. There are only about 140 acres of Venancio planted and a handful of producers. So it's one of the many, many, many local grapes that we have, not just in Italy, but in all of Europe.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember reading, because as soon as I buy any of this stuff, I try and like catch myself up on these things. This is a disease and like frost resistant varietal. Is that true?
Yeah, because most of the Enancio is grown on sandy soils along the Adige River,
Mm-hmm.
usually using the Pergola trentina. So it's a vine that grows very, very tall. And
You
many
can walk underneath
they,
it, right? They train it. They train it
yeah,
so that
you
way.
can
Yeah.
they train it as a pergola. Pergola means canopy basically, and
Mm-hmm.
you can literally walk. And they do that because the vineyards are usually close to the river, and so you want the fruit to be far away from the soil as possible because it's humid on the soil, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
they're growing the vines like this so that the grapes hang from this kind of beautiful canopy on top. And the majority of Enancio is phylloxera free because these are vines that grow on sandy soils. And as you know, the phylloxera bug can't survive on sand. And so most of the Enancio is pre-phylloxera vines that were not planted on rootstocks, on any kind of rootstock.
Very cool. So what?
And kind of a dark grape. You were
Mhm.
mentioning, what would you compare it to? To me,
Yeah.
sometimes it recalls like a French cold weather French Malbec
Mm.
with a little bit more of a warmth, obviously, but it has the same kind of um, notes of like menthol and eucalyptus and those kind of things. So it kind of reminds me of a French cold weather Malbec, not a Argentinian Malbec, obviously.
All right. So what are some tasting notes or some aromas that we would smell and pick up on the palate? What would be typical here?
So as opposed to many northern Italian reds, which are usually on the light side, Enancio is a little bit like Teroldego. So you do get a lot of like a pretty dark tinge to it. And typically, what I get from it, it's on the fruit side of things. We're talking about wild berries, and then because the wine also has this wild, kind of DNA, it usually brings out wild herbs as well, like marjoram, for example, or rosemary on sometimes. And so typically that's kind of the makeup. Obviously, the wine is aged in large casks, so you do develop some tertiary aromas, and usually I do get a little bit of that chocolatey at the very end. So it's kind of a medley of wild blueberries, a little herbs, and like grilled herbs, and then a little chocolate.
Very cool. I love this wine, dude.
Thank you.
As soon
It's
as I
kind of unique.
tasted it, it
As
is
far
very
as I know,
unique.
we are the only ones in California that have an Anzio.
Nobody else has ever brought me an Anuncio before, so I was
I
like,
bet.
you pulled it out, and I was like, all right, cool. So sommeliers, we're always thrilled to try something that we haven't had before. So this is
Yeah,
very,
it's
very well done.
that's the beautiful thing about grapevines, if you think about it.
Hmm.
In Italy, it's very special in this sense because in Italy there are 500 different native grapes, 500 that they make a commercially meaningful amount of wine to speak of.
Right.
And Sangiovese, which is the most important one in Italy, it's only 8% of the total production. And for us, it's like the number one grape. So that kind of tells you how many different grapes you're using.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you pair this with?
In Trentino, they do this kind of a beef jerky. So it's dried meat, salty dry meat, very much like beef jerky. Usually here in the US, we have it seasoned with some sort of marinade or something. In Trentino, it's purely just salt. So it's salty beef jerky, and it goes very well with that. So usually I would recommend some sort of charcuterie with it, but you can also have a nice steak or a nice pasta with some sort of ragu or things like that. Yeah.
Very
The
cool.
wine,
Yeah,
it's a big wine,
It is a big wine. Yeah, I mean, when I was putting it together, and people reached out to me, they're like, "Hey, what should we pair with this wine tonight?" I was like, go with like a grilled. I called it Italian, but it's like garlic and rosemary, steak. And then there was like a easy to make like tomato. I forget what it was called. It was like a dipping sauce for the steak, and it was like super easy to make. There was like no. You just take all those ingredients and throw it in a bowl, and it's like perfect for dipping your steak in. But yeah, it looked really, really good.
They
Of
have
course,
they have a cut that is similar to our strip steak.
what do they call it?
Diaphragma, which is really the part of the cow they are using. It's a diaphragm, and we call it strip steak. And
Gotcha.
it's very, very marble. Yeah, it's very fatty. It's really relatively inexpensive cut. And you can do, this is not typical of Trentino, but something that you can do to match the herbal notes of Anzio is if you want to do like a pesto sauce or like a chimichurri that has that kind of herbal note, I think it would match well.
I almost told everybody chimichurri, but we've already done chimichurri a few times on other wines. So I was like, whatever. Go ahead, Diana, buy them all. I need to clear out some room. Yeah. Take the last one too. You're gonna end up buying some of the lesson set too, which we're about to get into. Trust me, you're gonna love that wine. It's absolutely stunning. As a matter of fact, we'll just jump right into that too. So, what can you tell us a little bit about lesson set?
Allora, it's called Sincette.
Sinchet. I'm sorry. Look at me,
No, it's
man. My
okay.
American ass, dude.
No,
Les
no,
Sinchet.
don't worry about it's almost like there is a reason why it looks almost like a French name. This part of Italy, this is Lombardia, okay, so the region around Milan, but it's basically on the southeastern shores of Lake Garda. The Garda Lake, it's literally in between Milan and Venice. Matter of fact, the lake, half of the lake is in the Lombardy region, and half of the lake is in the Verona, in the Veneto region. And so this is on the left banks on the western banks of the Lake Garda. And the reason why I'm mentioning the lake is because it's the largest lake we have in Italy, and it's shaped almost like a pear. So the bottom of the lake, the southern part of the lake, is very, very big. As big that it almost works as a small sea, making this area all around the south shores basically Mediterranean in climate. Even if the Alps are really only, I don't know, 10 miles away, 15 miles away. And so
Mm-hmm.
basically what you get, it's the cold wind blowing down from the Alps,
Mm-hmm.
and then mitigated by the warmth of the Garda Lake. And so the area on south shores of the Garda Lake, you find olive trees, you find palms, and you're in the north part of Italy. So it's kind of counterintuitive, but it's a beautiful area and they grow everything. And that really what contributes to the profile of this wine, which is fruit forward, round and juicy, but at the same time it's very bright. It's very, this one really has almost like an energy of its own.
I love this wine.
And so Cincette, it was actually the very first winery to be certified biodynamic in 1997. It's a Demeter, it's part of the Demeter certification process. And the label
we call that witchcraft wine.
What's that?
We call it witchcraft wine.
Oh, witchcraft, yeah.
It was just a joke. Nobody here actually believes it. Yeah. It just became a thing. Everybody's like, the more you talk about it, the more it sounds like witchcraft. And I was like, yeah, I understand.
You know, I was very skeptical myself until a few years ago. And then, like, the guy that runs and owns the Cincette, he explained to me, you have to kind of filter out all the esoteric practices. But if you look at the philosophy behind it, it actually makes a lot of sense. They're basically saying, we as humans and our vineyards are part of a whole, right? We are part of an ecosystem. And so if you are in harmony and your vineyards are in harmony with the surrounding environment, they don't need protection. They will protect themselves from the pest, from the diseases and things like that.
Yeah. It's like a very equestrian approach, right? Like you just like everything's about like you said, all it's the whole vineyard living in harmony, right?
But I can tell you, and I'm sure you have tasted your fair share of biodynamic wines. I always find that biodynamic wines have something more.
Absolutely. You know, we joke about it because it's like we jokingly call it witchcraft wine, but witchcraft wine has a tendency to have a little bit more complexity and has a lot more going on for it than the wines that don't tout any kind of special farming practices. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They do. They have a lot more going on. I agree.
So, you know, empirically speaking, this is something that we find consistently in biodynamic, and we do not represent just biodynamic wines. We have a few, but not all of our portfolio. And so I can tell
you have them both, right? We've had really good biodynamic wines, and we've had really bad biodynamic wines, and we've had people who do they spray all the herbicides and pesticides and still manage to make a really good wine too. And you know, yeah, it happens. So this is 70% Merlot and 30% Marzemino. And you mentioned Marzemino before, but I remember when you brought it up to me, I was like, I don't think I've ever had Marzemino before. So can you tell everybody here knows Merlot, but can you tell us about this 30% Marzemino and why they chose to add it into this wine?
Yeah. So Marzemino is one of the many sons of the Teroldego grape of Trentino. Teroldego is a very old red grape variety from northern Italy. And Marzemino happens to be one of his part of the progeny of this grape variety. Marzemino is lighter in color than Teroldego, and usually has more of a like fruit forward note to it. Now, the cool thing about Marzemino is that it was actually mentioned the very first time in writing in 1792 in the libretto in the opera of Mozart called Don Giovanni. So if you listen to the Don Giovanni from Mozart all the way to the end, Don Giovanni, before being sent to hell, asks for a glass of Marzemino. And so that's...
I remember now. That just sparked me. You told me that story. Yeah.
No, but really, I mean, you can really listen. Don't listen to the whole opera. Fast forward to the end. And really, but there is a reason for that, and that this part of Italy was under Austrian control, Austrian domination, if you want. And Marzemino happened to be one of the favorite red wines drank at the court of the Habsburgs in Vienna. And so that's why it kind of made it into the opera. But it's, again, one of the local grapes of northeastern Italy. You'll find it in Veneto, you'll find it in Trentino, and you find it on the shores of Lake Garda right there. And so there are two reasons why they're blending it. Number one, they don't make enough to make a 100% Marzemino, number one. And number two, they believe that it really complements Merlot, adding a little bit more freshness to it, because Merlot sometimes can be a little dull, and it really brings a bit more of the spice note to it. And it's funny because this wine, to make this wine, the grow, obviously these are two separate vineyards. They harvest at separate times because Merlot is kind of early, and they usually harvest that early September, Amino towards the second half of September. They ferment with a native yeast separately. They age them separately in stainless steel tanks, and then they combine them in French oak.
Mm.
And so the wines comes together in French oak.
And how much time overall do the grapes spend in oak?
It's about 1 year.
About 1 year.
Plus
Very cool.
6 months in bottle before release.
So I'm curious now that I'm like really into it, and I've got my tasting head on. I had my dad head on like for just a minute. You know what I mean? Because I was trying to get the kids fed and locked into the bedroom where they belong. That's a joke, internet. All right, relax. I give them food.
I did the same with my dog. Don't worry.
No, now that it's kind of like I'm kind of like turning on my tasting note. It's much more elegant, I think, than the Anuncio. And I'm wondering if you would have started with this one first before the Anuncio, or if you were happy with pouring them in this order.
I usually don't see a huge difference. They are also the same amount of alcohol. Both of them should be 13.5%, if I recall correctly. And the amount 13. Of oak, the oak treatment is basically the same. So I think it's just a matter of preference at that point.
For sure.
I will tell you though, do not underestimate the Ronco del Garda, the Sincette, because it's Merlot can always add a little bit more complexity, and there is a reason why there is Merlot planted here, by the way. I usually do not work with so-called international varieties. I just don't find them as interesting when they're in Italy. But there is an historical reason why you have Merlot here and here and in Veneto, in the northeastern part of Italy. It was brought by the French. It was brought by Napoleon's army. They were fighting the Austrians, and as always happened in the past, soldiers brought with them vines, I should say, not vineyards.
Yeah.
And so there is a reason why you find Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon in Lombardy and in Veneto. So that's the reason why. And by the way, they are considered traditional varieties. They've been around at least 300 years, while they're not traditional either. In Sicily, for example, Cabernet and Merlot were planted in Sicily at the beginning of the 1900s or around the Second World War. So they're not, by any means, they're not part of our Sicilian kind of grape heritage.
What kind of tasting notes should we be paying attention to here?
So I think obviously 70% Merlot kind of dominates that. So you do have all the classic Merlot notes in here, and really it's a wine that I think it explodes in terms of jammy fruit and ripe berry aromas. I am more about like the black currant here than blueberry. A little darker, a little more tart. And then you do have Marzemino usually brings marjoram, herbs, more of a herbal note to it.
Very cool.
And obviously, you have the wood aging, and so you really add a little bit more of those slightly toasty notes to it. I love it. I mean, it's again. I was almost not going to import it, and then I was tasting it with my partner, and he says it's just too good for the money. We have to bring this in.
Absolutely, I agree.
And by the way, the label, because you're displaying the label shows what they are growing. They don't just do grapes, they do many things. So the purple squares are the red grapes, and then all the other shades of green are different kind of crops. And everything.
Oh wow! So they grow very little grape in comparison to how much crops they grow.
Oh yeah, they do a lot of wheat, barley. They do alfalfa.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always love when you get like a really beautiful label. Like I love this label. Yeah. I know that like labels are like a weird thing because more often than not, right? If you're shopping in a grocery store or in a retail environment, you look at these and you go, you just walk and buy something. But I feel like this is one that somebody would walk by and be like, look at that label. It's so pretty. And they buy it and then we go home and be like, this wine is amazing. All because they were like, the label is pretty. But the label is in fact very pretty, and it's cool to know that it's also very informative too.
And the design, this is a French designer, and he put some of the classic things you see, like for example, papavero, the one at the bottom. Papavero is poppy, the poppy flower.
Oh, cool.
They have ton of that. Then they have like there is a lombrico, would be a worm, you know, earthworm. And then some of the name of the grapes, like on top you see Marzemino. I think it's a great way to actually talk about the winery as well.
It is. It is. It's definitely a conversation starter for sure. Diana, I wasn't worried about you. I looked again and I was like, those 3 bottles are online, and I just saw that you picked them up. So good for you. I'm glad that you got them. No, yeah, these wines are spectacular. And guys, don't worry. Like, Giuseppe has an amazing portfolio of wines that he imports. We'll definitely have him back again. Real quick, before I get too far ahead, Giuseppe, what would you pair this wine with? We already talked a little bit about steak. Would you go a different direction with this wine, or would you kind of keep it in that same lane?
I would do the same again when it comes to pairings. Italians, at least Italians, we try to keep it simple at the end of the day. For something like this, I would recommend if you make like a nice pappardelle with like a nice ragu. But if you're, for some reason, you're like vegetarian or vegan and you don't want to do meat, this is something that the tannins are relatively low. So you can do a fatty fish as well. If you feel daring, you can do like a nice tuna steak seared on the grill. And as long as you go with a fatty fish, you'll be fine. So you can I would recommend to chill the wine.
I was just going to ask that. Would you chill it?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that this is a very chillable wine.
And again, it's a daring.
That's me trying to be savvy.
Listen, it's a daring pairing. Obviously, my preference would be some type of meat, fat, or charcuterie or cheese would be a good one.
But we love daring pairings, though, and I'm glad that you said that because for those of you guys who don't know, like there's a couple of books out there. There's one book called The Perfect Pairing, and then the sequel to that book is called The Daring Pairing, and they're both fantastic reads. If anybody's interested, I can add it to my Amazon list as a couple of books that I would recommend. They just have great recommendations and kind of like expand your horizon in terms of what you're going to pair with what, and I think that the biggest tool that you're ever going to get, personally speaking, is trial by error. Just try different wines with different foods and go for it. Auntie Nora, thank you so much for being here and tuning in. I'm glad you got the last Anuncio. That wine does not disappoint, obviously. But I know you don't have it, but you will soon, and you're going to love it. And Ashley, I hear you. Definitely, I will add those books to the list on the Wine Tools page. The rosemary on the steak goes so well with this. We even bought a Piedmontese steak. Damn!
My wife would be proud of you. She's from Piedmont.
Man, y'all so bougie. I'm so glad I could be that kind of an influence on your life. No, that's great. I'm so glad that you did it and that you went for it. All right, Giuseppe, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would need to add about the wines that you want to say?
I am partial towards my country, obviously, but I always invite people to go out of their comfort zone. So especially when it comes to something like an Anzio, people like me and you, we do our best to do the selection for them. So if it's here, it means that it's something special about it. So just think outside of the box, try new things, especially when it comes to Italian wine. You will be hard pressed not to try one of our many native grape varieties. So
for sure. I know you just said it, but even the Austrian varietals that we had a couple weeks ago at the in-person tasting, those were just beyond spectacular.
Yeah.
You're killing it. We're crushing it, and we'll definitely do more of these together. Just the only difference now will be this will be the last virtual one, and now everything will just be in person, and we'll do tastings once a month. That's right. So for those of you, that was an easy transition. For those of you who are tuning in or are watching now, and we'll turn this into a reel and a TikTok later, but moving forward, Wine Talk with Tesh will no longer be doing these live sessions on Facebook and on YouTube. We've already moved away from Instagram. We're going to be moving away from it entirely. What we will do is we'll cut a video and we'll still post that to YouTube once a month. We will still cut the reels. We'll still cut the TikToks, and we'll be posting them on all the platforms. We'll still have the shorts and everything to share, but the more in person thing is I like being with people. It feeds my soul. And when we do this across a computer screen, it just doesn't have the same effect that I want and I need out of it. So can we come when Guisseppe? She's like, can we come when Guisseppe goes to the live events? Absolutely, you can.
And I live in Sacramento, so that
he's not going anywhere, man. He moved over here and now he started a wine business. He's stuck for a while. So the next in-person tasting, which is going to be 2 weeks from now, is going to be on Wednesday, April 6th. It will be at the Sutter Club at 6:30 p.m. We'll be tasting all 4 wines at that one tasting, okay? I will still have some small bites to pair for you. Go to winewithtesh.com and there, if you click on tastings, there's a new format for it. So I just sell you a seat at the event, which is $35 a person. Okay, no more of this you get the box and you take 2 bottles home. No, it's too confusing. $35 per person. You come, you taste the wines. You'll have an opportunity to buy the wines and take them home with you still. So we'll still have that option. And then, almost always we're going to go out, we're going to hang out and party, have a good time afterward. So that's the first thing. The second piece of that is if for some reason you can't come to the tasting and you still want the box, or if you come to the tasting, you're like, I just want to buy the whole box, you can still do that. So I'll still have the Tesh Talk box available as one big, sellable box that includes all 4 wines for that month. We'll still have that as an available item for everyone. So just to kind of clarify, again, no more of this virtual back and forth. We'll just go to all in person once a month. And then as we move forward and things go into, as we kind of find our rhythm with the in-person tastings, I'll start sprinkling in some fun one-off events. I'll organize a dinner and a wine pairing at a restaurant and we'll all go out and all you have to do is, I'll sell the tickets and you just show up and enjoy yourself and, we'll take care of the show, if you will. So yeah. So we have a lot of good stuff to look forward to. Thank you for doing the virtual the last couple of years, even though it's hard through the computer. It gave us so much to look forward to in quarantine. Thank you guys all for participating in these virtual tastings. The original, after getting such a fabulous intro and it ends, no, it won't be the end because we're still going to be cutting the video from the in-person tasting and we'll still use that. We'll use that as we'll never let go. Listen, I'm never going to let go of the fact that my boy Jordan made me a fucking intro video. My mind was blown. I had an intro video. Who the fuck am I? I'm just a brown boy from Modesto, you know what I mean? And there he goes playing it. Look at him.
There you go.
No, it will live on for sure. And yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you all for participating in all of these virtual tastings and making it a reality for us. Sincerely, when I joke about it a lot, I say, thank you for helping me feed my family. There was a time when we relied solely on this to take care of our kids. So for all of you who buy wine from me on a regular basis, thank you. I'm fucking getting emotional. Stop it. Cut that shit out. Sincerely, thank you. I appreciate you guys very, very much. That being said, spring has sprung. I mean, we kind of just jumped right into fucking summer. Don't worry, Guisseppe. It's going to get much more warm. Don't worry. Oh, yeah. So 2 things. Diana, thank you for saying that. Next Saturday on April the 2nd, the Foothills Wine Fest. Go to that. It's going to be so much fun. I think it's $65 per person. If you use the code WineLover22, when you check out, you get $10 off your ticket. So it's $55 per person. I think it's from 5 to 8 p.m. And it's out in Folsom, but I got to be a wine judge for the Foothills Wine Fest, and it was really, really cool. And I'm very, very excited for you guys to see which wines got double golds, and we can drink them all together. We'll hang out together. It's one of my friends' birthdays that night. Danielle, my wife, is going to be out with us, hanging out. It's going to be really,
I
really
will be
cool.
there with my
Yeah,
wife.
Giuseppe's going to be there. Giuseppe, is your wife coming?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna have the whole crew there, and we're gonna go out for dinner after we drink all this wine. So it's gonna be really, really cool, and we'll figure out where to go. But it's gonna be a really, really fun night. Jordan's gonna fly in from Milwaukee. It's gonna be crazy. He ain't gonna do that. He ain't gonna do that. So that's the first thing, and then the second thing is he just said, "Yup." The second thing is, and I want to kind of close with this, as I need to do some spring cleaning. I am running out of room for wine, for new wines in my wine storage. As you guys know, I run my business out of my garage. We're now getting into these warmer months. I can't have the cases just chilling in the garage. They need to be put away in a controlled environment. So as an incentive to you guys to go buy more wine, I think Jordan put in the chat already. We're going to start with this one. So I have 11 bottles of the Vincent Girardin Bourgogne Rouge, the Cuvée Saint Vincent. So normally it's $28, and I've reduced that price to $20, which is the best price you will find anywhere online. Go snag up as much of it as you want. I have 11 bottles. When that's gone, I'll post the next one on social media. All right. So a little thank you from me, and we'll keep that going. Until it's not a thing anymore. We'll just kind of like future a wine at a crazy good deal, and we'll just do it until we don't need to anymore. Maybe then we'll just keep doing it because it's fun, and who doesn't like a good deal? All right. Does anybody else have any more questions for Giuseppe before we let him go, or for me for that matter, in regards to the changes? Let us know in the chat. I'll drink a little bit while we wait. Give you guys a chance. This really awkward slow pour. Jordan, I think the first TikTok that I'm going to need is the one letting everyone know about the changes. So I can post that right away and let people know that that we have these.
Yeah, we'll get that out there right away.
New format.
Yep.
And again, don't sleep on it, guys, because Jordan's still going to be cutting all the videos and stuff. I'm still going to upload those to him. He's going to continue making me look way cooler than I actually am.
Still using that intro.
Still using the intro. All right. I don't think we have any other questions. If you guys need to reach out to me, you know how to get a hold of me. You have my cell phone number. You have my email. You can send an owl. Do whatever you got to do to get in touch with me. Let's all keep drinking some good wine. And I am super excited to see you guys all in person on April 6th. Giuseppe, thanks again. I know you're not drinking right now, but I'm going to cheers you.
Thank you. I will be drinking soon. So.
All right, my man. Thanks again for being here, and thanks a lot. Catch you all soon, okay?
You got it. Thank you very much.